The stench of burning synthetics and spilled coolant filled the air as Dane Corin stepped over a twitching drone husk in the alleyway. The Virex 9 trade sprawl was worse than usual. Currency screamed louder than morality here. He shifted the crate of alloy scraps on his shoulder, ignoring the drunk frolic who hissed at him from the gutter. He turned down a back path. Faster, quieter, and there she was. A hunched figure cloaked in torn fiber mesh, motionless, head covering her face. Just another street ghost. But her voice halted him. Please. That word didn't belong here. Not in that voice. Not said like that. Calm, composed, and almost dignified. Dane froze, 1 foot already past her. He set the crate down. You hungry? He asked. A pause. Yes. He handed over a foil-packed ration and a water bulb. She took them with gloved hands, trembling but precise, not the clumsy fingers of a starving addict. Her movements were deliberate. You from around here? He asked. No one is from here. We just end up here. He smirked. Fair enough. She tilted her head but said nothing else. Dane eyed her hood. He couldn't see skin, species, or even tech tags. Nothing. Just a voice and shadow. He stood in silence for a beat too long, then walked away. 5 steps. 10. He stopped. Got a safe place. No strings. Clean cot. You want it? She didn't answer, but she stood, slowly, without a sound. Dane led her to the cargo routes behind the salvage yards, where patrolling drones didn't waste power. The door to his warehouse hissed open on manual override. You can rest here. Medkit's in the corner. Water's filtered. You hurt? No. Her voice was clearer inside. He nodded. Suit yourself. He dropped his crate by the wall and resumed cleaning parts. She sat in the far corner, silent, motionless. Hours passed. Not a word. Next morning, she was still there. No signs of sleep. Her hood never lowered. She accepted a protein cube without thanks, but ate it quickly. Dane didn't ask for gratitude. You said you weren't from here. So where? Far. He chuckled. That's vague. Safer that way. He tapped his console, pulling up trade manifest logs. She watched with interest, but feigned indifference. You got a name? He asked. Does it matter? Nope. More silence. But she didn't leave. That night, she asked, Why did you stop? Dane didn't look up. Didn't plan to. Just did. You gave me food. Safety. Why? He shrugged. Seemed right. No one does that. Humans do. She tilted her head again. You risk yourself for nothing. Strange species. Dane finally looked at her. We didn't survive Soul's collapse by turning cold. We looked after each other. Not always, but enough. The silence that followed felt heavier. 2 days later, trouble arrived. Low-flying surveillance units. Mercenaries in plain clothes asking about a cloaked suspect with non-registered gene markers. Dane played dumb. They left with narrowed eyes and scanning drones. Dane armed the perimeter. He didn't ask questions, but he locked the doors early. She finally spoke again. They'll come back. Stronger. More. Why? Because I exist. He folded his arms. That's not an answer. I was born to a dynasty no longer in power. I carry something they fear, a past they tried to erase. He didn't blink. You royalty or something? Something like that. Dane sighed. Let me guess. Empire hunted your kind, wiped the records, sterilized the bloodlines. She said nothing. I've read history. She looked at him, eyes still hidden. Would you still help me if I told you I wasn't entirely biological? Dane leaned on a console. If you were going to stab me, you'd have done it already. That night, he found her studying a hollow map of the outer systems. She knew orbital routes, precise timing data, not something a beggar should know. Were you military? He asked. No, but they trained us. Who's they? Dead men. Ghost councils. Projects burned in the archives. Dane rubbed his face. Why you? Why now? Because I ran. And because you stopped. He understood the risk then, fully, but it didn't matter. He'd already made his choice. The mercenaries returned. They didn't knock. Doors breached by explosives. Flash rounds. Dane dropped two before they cleared the first corridor. One reached the core room. The woman stood exposed. Hood still up? The merc raised his rifle. And then he flew backwards into the wall, crushed by invisible force. Another scream followed as power arced from her hands, shorting weapons, frying circuitry. When it ended, 5 lay unconscious. The rest fled. Dane stared. She turned. I didn't want you to see that. Who are you? She hesitated, then reached up. The hood came off. Her face was radiant, symmetrical to the point of perfection, not manufactured, but impossibly refined. Skin like opal under starlight, eyes shaped like humanity's, but with depth that held galaxies. Lines of ancient glyphs pulsed faintly along her cheekbones. He stepped back without meaning to. You're not just from a dynasty. No, I'm from the Seraphim Accord. We were wiped out 20,000 years ago. At least the galaxy thought so. Dane felt his pulse spike. You're supposed to be extinct. That's the point. He sat. Words failed. She walked to the console and projected a symbol, a winged seal wrapped in celestial orbit lines. I was a diplomatic construct, she said. But more than that, I carry entire libraries of genetic memory. They want that erased. And you came to Virex 9? It was the one place even assassins hate. Dane chuckled, a short, sharp bark of disbelief. You just made yourself target number 1. She nodded. I know. And me? You already were, the moment you stopped walking. He looked at her, really looked. I've done dumber things. She almost smiled. I believe you. The power went out. Emergency lights flickered on. We need to move, Dane said. She agreed, but in the silence before they packed, she looked up again. You said humans look after each other, even strangers. He nodded. Sometimes. I hope that's true, because what I carry might be the last key to stopping the sovereign collapse. Dane didn't know what that was, but he'd already committed. He picked up his rifle. Then let's get you somewhere they'll never find you. She looked at him with unreadable eyes, or somewhere they'll regret looking. They left the salvage yards before dawn, slipping through shipping tunnels lined with rust and mold. Dane's modified hauler, old but fast, lifted from the shadows under minimal power. The Seraphim woman, now using the name Lysra, sat wordless beside him. He didn't ask where they were going. He just punched in coordinates for Sector 19. Dead zone, off-grid, no patrols. A place smugglers used and where secrets stayed buried. During the jump, she studied the interface. Human text crude, she said finally. Dane smirked. Crude enough to still work after being shot 5 times and patched with scrap. She didn't smile, but her voice softened, crude and resilient. Her body glowed faintly now and then, like controlled static beneath the skin. Dane caught in the corner of his eye, but never stared. She was always in control, except when she wasn't. Once clear of orbit, Lysra accessed the ship system with her hand. No device needed. Her fingers hovered, and data flowed across the screen faster than any console input should allow. You just broke 3 encryption layers. 4. What are you? I told you. I was designed to be more than alive. I was created to remember. Memory bank in a body? She nodded. But more. Each Seraphim was engineered with layered genomic histories, cultural archives, conflict simulations, governance logs. Like a walking civilization. Yes, and the last known one. Dane gripped the controls tighter. Lysra's expression turned distant. You humans are loud, in thought, emotion, but you adapt with terrifying speed. Is that a compliment? It's a warning. Silence followed. They landed on Vasker's wreck, a shattered moon wrapped in ion storms and forgotten satellites. Dane's contacts, there were ghosts and gunrunners. None asked questions if you paid in clean fuel and food packs. Inside the cavernous old mining hub, Dane set up temporary shielding. Lysra sat cross-legged, wires running from the wall into her palms, absorbing raw data from a scavenged server core. She accessed records too old for the public net. Pre-Empire broadcasts, encrypted sovereign files, ghost warnings from forgotten colonies. She absorbed everything. Fast. Why keep learning? Dane asked. Because they rewrote history. I have to know what's left. What happens when you do? I correct it. You really think one woman can correct a galaxy? Not a woman. A seraphim. And no, not alone. She stood and opened a portable projector. A hologram of the galaxy flickered to life, highlighting dozens of red nodes. These are extermination zones, regions where sovereign silence operations succeeded. No survivors. No official records. Dane counted them. 79. 82. 3 just went dark. She zoomed in on a marked planet. Kilvera's. Last Seraphim outpost, she said. Hidden. Unknown even to our creators. A failsafe. I need to reach it. Dane squinted at the route. We'll be flagged jumping near that sector. Sovereign patrols are thick. Too thick. Not if we use old Earth beacon lanes. They run through abandoned wormholes. Unstable, yes, but undetectable. Those lanes were shut down 2 centuries ago. Lysra looked at him. Do you trust me? He didn't answer, but he changed the NAV path. As the ship tore through twisted space, Lysra began telling him stories. Not personal ones, but those stored in her. Tales of how the Seraphim once tried to unify fractured species. How they failed. How trust was a rare commodity, even then. We were elegant. Perfect, some said, but we lacked what you humans have. What's that? Grit. He laughed. We got plenty of that. They emerged near the ruins of Arches 5, a station now overtaken by sovereign blockades. Dane's screens lit with warnings. Too close, he said. We need stealth. You have it. Not standard issue. She moved to the engine bay. Moments later, the emissions dropped off. Dane's eyes widened. You rerouted the entire energy signature. Your ship was capable. It just wasn't awake. They coasted in shadows, silent, drifting past half-dead drones and forgotten wrecks. Dane kept his hand steady, eyes forward. Lysra stood by the viewport, eyes glowing faintly, like she could see what sensors couldn't. An alert blipped, long-range sovereign patrol. Dane readied weapons. No, she said. Let me. She raised her hand. The ship dimmed, then shimmered. Outside sensors warped. The patrol passed them by without a blink. You cloaked us. Technically, I convinced them not to notice us. Same thing. They jumped again, just beyond the system edge. As the stars warped, Dane saw flashes in Lysra's eyes. Equations, rotations, ancient coordinates. Then they were there. Kilvera's was not a welcoming place. Half-frozen oceans. Ruined towers shaped like wings. The outpost buried beneath rock and code. They descended. As they walked through the structure, doors opened for her. Lights flickered back to life. Servers hummed. The facility recognized her. It's like watching a ghost come home. Dane whispered. She placed her hand on a console. The room pulsed. Suddenly, others appeared, holograms of Seraphim. Old ones. Teachers, scientists, warriors. All flickering memories bound to this place. They began to speak of war, betrayal, lost brothers. Lysra's eyes moistened. This is what they wanted destroyed. Not just lives. Meaning. The archive poured into her. More than she could process in one sitting. She began to strain, shaking. Dane grabbed her. Slow down. I can't. It's dying. He looked at the flickering lights, the cracks in the walls, the failing power cores. He ran to the generator room. Found parts. Fuse wires. He worked for hours, burning his hands, slicing his fingers on glass. No AI. No tools. Just raw effort. When power stabilized, the overload stopped. Lysra collapsed into his arms. You fixed it. He said nothing. Just breathed. Later, when she stood again, she was different. Taller. Stronger. Fuller of light. You're glowing, Dane said. I'm complete. She walked to the command table and called up the galaxy again. Now the red zones were joined by green markers, resistance points, hidden allies, forgotten rebellions. You humans aren't the only ones who resist, she said, but you are the only ones who resist without needing permission. What now? We sent a signal, not to rally armies, but to remind species of what was lost. They'll come for us. Then we give them a reason to be afraid. Dane nodded. You're going to war? No, I'm going to reveal the truth. The war comes after. He sighed. Of course it does. She touched his shoulder. You didn't have to help me. You didn't have to fight, bleed, risk everything. Yeah, but I did. Why? He shrugged. Because I saw someone in trouble. Still strange, she whispered. The ground rumbled. A long-range scan warned of incoming ships. They found us. Dane drew his rifle. How many? Too many. Then we'd better make it count. But Lysra looked calm. I don't need to hide anymore. They do. As the sky darkened and gunships descended, she stepped outside. She raised her hand. The sky bent. Clouds turned metallic. And the seraphim spoke. The moment Lysra stepped forward, the world shifted. The sky cracked open with iridescent waves, like reality itself bent at her presence. Dane squinted against the brilliance, his rifle slack in his hand. He wasn't witnessing a battle. He was witnessing an announcement. Sovereign dropships fell from orbit in tight formation, disciplined, deadly. 30 in total. Their hulls gleamed black, their insignias pulsing blood red. Dane counted 3 heavy-class artillery carriers. They didn't come to negotiate. Lysra stood alone in the ash-dusted clearing, her silhouette framed by the ancient ruins of her people. And she spoke, not with words, but with frequency. All sovereign systems within 300 kilometers overloaded. Engines stalled. HUDs failed. Shields collapsing on themselves. Then her voice rang out across every channel. Military, civilian, encrypted, black market, even ancient emergency beacons. This is Lysra of the Seraphim. We have returned. Silence. Then chaos. Sovereign forces panicked, their comms fried, their drones dead in the sky. But one command ship hovered beyond range, shielded by distance. Aboard it, High Executive Varn watched the feed with narrowed eyes. Confirm identity, he barked. His aides scrambled. No match existed. Nothing in the archives but scraps of folklore, redacted tales, and suppressed reports. Still, her genetic signal was unmistakable. Varn hissed. She supposed to be extinct. Dane joined Lysra on the platform, pulse racing. What now? They'll regroup. We have seconds. What do you need? Time. Without waiting, Dane sprinted back toward the old facility. He activated every defense grid, repaired or not. Auto turrets coughed to life. Shield emitters sputtered then stabilized. Just barely. Generators howled as old cores fired again. Lysra raised her arms. Power spilled from her fingers, linking into the buried lattice of the Seraphim's stronghold. The ground lit up, massive symbols etched in stone, resonating with harmonic energy. A planetary beacon pulsed once. Then again, and again, the frequency rippled across deep space. Out beyond known star routes, ancient systems blinked awake. Across the galaxy, old sentinels stirred, leftover relics from a forgotten era. In deep orbit around the dead world of Caldus, a long-slumbering defense satellite turned toward the stars. On abandoned colonies where only wind whispered, lights flared in sealed bunkers. Lysra wasn't just reactivating defenses. She was awakening the Seraphim inheritance. The sovereign ships began firing. Missiles screamed through the atmosphere, arcing toward the ruins. Dane triggered countermeasures. Old defense lasers surged from cracked towers, intercepting 3 for 5 missiles, then faltering. A blast struck the northern wall. The shock wave knocked him off his feet. Lysra stayed standing. Another wave approached. Then something happened the Sovereign did not expect. Human ships arrived, rusted, undergunned, half-legal, but fast, furious, and flying in defiance. Dane's old contact Vesta led the charge, her freighter jury-rigged into a missile platform. She dove through sovereign lines like a banshee, screaming on open comms. This is for every settlement you erased. Other ships followed, independent traders, bounty hunters, ex-military, humans with nothing to lose, all drawn by Lysera's signal. They didn't ask for orders. They just attacked. Sovereign formations scrambled, tried to reform. But the chaos was too deep, the losses mounting too fast. One of the capital ships fell from orbit, engines gutted by a kamikaze strike from a human freighter. Inside the ruins, Dane worked with blistered fingers to route power from the backup reactors. He couldn't see the sky anymore. Dust and fire blurred everything. The walls shook. Alarms screamed. But he wouldn't stop. This was what humanity did best, survive in impossible odds. Above them, Lysera hovered now, just feet off the ground, suspended in a cocoon of light and data. Her eyes shone like stars. Her voice carried far beyond sound. You erased the memory of my kind. You forged empires on our ashes. But memory returns, and with it, justice. A second beacon activated. This one resonated differently. Not just a call to allies, but a command. Elsewhere, hidden Seraphim vaults burst open. Constructs emerged, some biological, some mechanical, all imbued with the same ancient code. They were not soldiers. They were judges. And they were coming. Sovereign Command tried to cut the signal. Their AI fractured. Networks imploded. Their elite cybersol team, the Black Coil, deployed a virus to shut down the pulse, but rebounded and turned their own systems against them. Dane staggered to the command platform. You're winning. No, Lysera said. We're remembering. There's a difference. Ships began retreating. One sovereign commander attempted to surrender. Lysera didn't answer. She didn't need to. The war had already passed him by. But Executor Varn refused to flee. He activated his personal dreadnought and launched a kinetic rod toward the planet. A tungsten strike capable of turning cities into craters. Lysera watched it descend. Her glow dimmed. I can't stop that alone. Dane looked up. Then you're not alone. He opened the last reserve conduit, feeding every drop of energy into the relay tower. Use me. She hesitated. Do it, he said. You said humans resist without permission. I'm not asking. She touched his chest. Light passed between them. Not pain, not cold, just memory. Pure, ancient, wild. The tower rose. The sky bled white. The kinetic rod collided not with the planet, but with a barrier, a wall of shaped gravity, formed from centuries-old Seraphim tech, now powered by human tenacity. It shattered into molten fragments. Varn screamed. His dreadnought exploded seconds later, torn apart from within by something no one could explain. In orbit, silence reigned. On the ground, dust settled. Dane collapsed, breath ragged. That all of them? Lysera knelt beside him. For now. He smiled. Good, because I'm tired. She touched his cheek, her hand still shimmering. You gave everything. Yeah, well, someone had to. Ships began to land. Human ships, yes, but others too. Species who'd stayed hidden. Alien crews long thought extinct. And from the sky, Seraphim constructs descended. Relics once dormant now active again. The world changed. Not overnight, but irrevocably. In the days that followed, Lysera began transmitting again. Not calls to war, but truth. Full historical archives. Declassified horrors. The genocide of the Seraphim, the sovereign manipulations, the stolen technologies. It spread faster than any fleet. And everywhere it reached, rebellion followed. Dane healed slowly. His body was scarred. His ship nearly destroyed. But every visitor asked for him, not because he fought, but because he chose. He'd helped the beggar. He hadn't known her name. And that act had started everything. One day, Lysera sat beside him again. Her form was less luminous now, more grounded, more human. They fear you, she said. He chuckled. Good. They revere you. Worse. You could lead them. He shook his head. I build ships. I fix junk. That's all I'm good for." She looked at him for a long moment. "No, you saw value where others saw weakness. That's the rarest thing in the galaxy." He shrugged. "You're still weird." She smiled. Above them, stars shifted. Not because of gravity, but because of hope. He helped her and changed everything. And